Hey, welcome to Muthu Integrative and Lifestyle Pulmonary Medicine. Today I have the privilege of talking to a wonderful gentleman, an amazing entrepreneur, a philanthropist, Mr. Joe Morrison, the CEO of Right2Breathe, which is a nonprofit organization that is helping tons of COPDers and patients with respiratory illness with amazing content online as well as fundraising opportunities. And uh, Mr. Joe Morrison, Tim, Charlotte, and Michelle, the three of them are running this program. And also, Joe Morrison and Tim are second generation drag racing specialists, and the racing profession has beautifully amalgamated along with COPD care, um, and fundraising and motivational activities that bring in physicians, respiratory therapists, and patients who need help together. So let's jump in, and let's see how our meeting goes with Mr. Joe Morrison, and we'll share some feedback. And please feel free to ask questions. Thank you so much. Because
Mhm.
so again, Prashant Muthukrishnan, that's my name. And thank you for joining us, Joe. So here I will show you a little bit of the content on my YouTube page. It's mostly a combination of lifestyle medicine and integrative approaches.
Awesome.
And so I talk about the role of plant-based diets as well as how to augment the pulmonary clinic with knowledge from both the East and the West.
Excellent.
Um, and in fact, I recently had a lecture that talks about different other diseases, including multiple sclerosis. There's a wonderful doctor called Terry Wahls, Wahls Protocol. She published a lot for multiple sclerosis and how diet and different kinds of approaches helped patients, reverse their disease. Similarly, you may have heard about Dean Ornish,
Hmm.
who's a pioneer in the field of lifestyle medicine. So I got board certified just recently in lifestyle medicine also.
Awesome.
And
That's
so
great.
yeah, so I'm booming with all these new information, and I'm just bumping into people, the right kind of people, and I'm able to build networks and trying to serve the society as much as I can. And
Yeah.
that's when I heard about you, and I just started looking you up a few days back, and I really am inspired by your racing interests and trying to bring in COPD and trying to find a connection between different fundraising events and similar things that you've
It,
been.
it's it's funny. People would not think that there would be a natural connection between lung disease, COPD specifically, but pulmonary fibrosis as well, and
Mhm.
car racing, and that really came about because of my dad. And what we've discovered
Mhm.
through my dad's journey with COPD is that when people do what they're excited about and they have a passion that they can enjoy, that their health outcomes are better. We
Mhm.
had we had very good success keeping my dad healthy for a good long time with very severe COPD, and he was able to, because his passion in life was car racing, and that's where I got that from. From a
Okay.
very young age, I was around car racing really in my earliest years, and absolutely have loved it my whole life. So um, my dad had to give it up for a number of years, just because when his father, my grandfather passed away from lung cancer. um, he had to really stop racing, take over the family business. There was just no time or money. And so when I was able to give that back to him later in life, when I was able to begin racing and give his passion back to him, that was the same time he had been diagnosed with COPD. And that's what led us to begin learning about the disease, and the fact that more often than not, people do not get diagnosed until they've already lost a significant amount of lung function. And so we began really with this outreach effort to try to help with early detection. And that's still an ongoing effort. We have partnered with Ted Koppel and Grace Andorni Koppel on their COPD SOS program,
Okay.
right? So, and then of course, um, car racing, both drag racing that I do, right? NHRA drag racing and NASCAR were sponsored by the big tobacco companies, Winston-Salem, for
Mm,
30 years. Now, look, we all know smoking is not the only cause of COPD, and we try to um, battle the stigma, of, oh well, it's a smoker's disease.
mm,
There's a lot of workplace exposure, environmental exposure, whether it's working in conditions or even living conditions where there's whether that's could be secondhand smoke, right, or it could be other pollutants in the air. So we've really focused on the fact that there's a lot of different causes of COPD, and it just so happens that within car racing, there's a huge prevalence of people that are at risk.
mhm.
And so it just seemed like a very effective way that we could share the message that you use your passions in life. Like actually, in the Right to Breathe mission statement, we believe that when people, we believe that people can overcome great obstacles when their passions in life inspire them.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of neat what you're doing with pickleball, because it's the same concept, right?
Yeah.
You have something that you love to do, and by the way, it actually is good for you at the same time, right? Movement and um,
Mm,
so
that's
no, I
great.
think there's some really interesting parallels here.
It is. It is. In fact, very recently, I got a chance to see pickleball live, because these days pickleball is happening all over the country in different cities. They have these small opens, U.S. Open, National Open, Cincinnati Open, and all that. And you won't believe two of the headlines that came recently is there's Angela Gallant Hatch, who is a cardiology physician assistant in Idaho, who has pulmonary hypertension and is on oxygen. And she is a pickleball player, and she featured in the National Open. And and it's amazing to see her wearing oxygen and actually running crazy. And she's so good. And
Wow.
so that's number one. So that you can be a professional pickleball player despite having severe pulmonary hypertension and is on oxygen. Similarly, there is a 75-year-old John McDaniel, and it's amazing. He has pulmonary fibrosis, is on oxygen, and he won the gold in St. Louis Open just last week, and it's all over in the Pickleball Association. So there's a lot of inspiration happening in all these individual forums,
Yeah.
and it's such an amazing thing when I got in contact with that forum, and I just shared with COPD Foundation and other. I have in a small Facebook page, and I try to share such inspirational things, and it's so gratifying when I share such things. Um, so yeah, so I wanted to ask you as to what are the avenues in which I can contribute, and I'll tell you what are the bits and pieces of my experience as well as passion as well as the content that I already have on things like YouTube. For example, um, I practice yoga, and it can be as simple as a few breath techniques that are very useful, that are safe, and I'll be happy to share the medical literature that also backs the evidence behind the effects of these breathing techniques from yoga. So that's one area that I can share content, and you can look at it and see what works for you and what's applicable and safe for you to share amongst your audience. That's number one. Number two is integrative and lifestyle medicine approaches. I'll show you that very recently is when I actually have to share the screen actually right there. Yes, right there. So very recently, in American Thoracic Society in San Francisco was one of the few studies that talks about plant-based diets, for instance, in lung population. So far, it's been done for many, many decades for cardiac population, and for some reason, we are left behind when it comes to plant-based diets or lifestyle. It's all about so far only about medications, and I'm glad that we're going beyond medications. So what they did was in a cardiac population, they looked at emphysema outcomes.
Okay.
Um, and that way, all they looked at is something called a plant-centric diet. It does not mean that you completely get rid of meat, but the core is plants, and then you add on um, other items. So a priori quality score, and they show that 60% lower odds of developing emphysema over 30 years of follow-up versus those with diets in the bottom quintile of the plant contribution. And this is from Mount Sinai University in New
Mhm.
York, and this is such a powerful statement. Of course, the way that they advertise this is for young adults, fewer burgers may mean healthier lungs later on. It could it could potentially be worded better because
Yeah.
just because you eat a burger, um, and similarly, just because you mention plant-based diet, it doesn't mean that plant-based diets are healthier. You have to mention a whole food, uh, not processed, and as much as possible, a home-based or a self-driven diet plan that is more plant predominant. It has more detail to that because French fries or highly fried food can still be plant-based. uh,
Right. Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
so that's something that I was looking at. And let me see. Yeah. So that's one example. And then I also want to share with you um, this one right here. American College of Lifestyle Medicine. They have amazing set of tools for patients that we use in our clinics. Um, and they are complimentary downloads, and it's as simple as a diet plan, um, and it goes on to showing right there how to split the plate into different portions. And six pillars of lifestyle medicine is what we focus on, which is actually um, relaxation and stress reduction. Social support is such an important part of lifestyle medicine. uh, uh, and then plant predominant diet, and then daily exercise, and two more. Yeah, avoidance of substances that cause harm, and importance of sleep. So these are the six pillars. So lifestyle medicine topics are certain things that I'm recently certified on, so I'll be happy to share that also with your audience. So yoga, lifestyle medicine, and then of course pickleball, and trying to use pickleball as a, a, a bridge between COPD and pulmonary rehab, because I'm
Right.
trying to um, what I'm trying to do is I'm facing a little bit of hesitation, but I'm hoping to bring in a sense of fun even within pulmonary rehab. So I'm trying to get in some little bit of yoga into pulmonary rehab. Similarly, trying to get the pulmonary rehab guys outdoors one of these days and actually entertain them with simple pickleball games. That's something that I'm trying to do. Um, and I'm also a musician, so we know the
Cool.
effect of vocal music, and whether it is an instrument music like flute and so on. It helps a lot with dexterity, but the more so you use the right brain, then you actually give a chance to rest your left brain, because we are so good at using the left brain, which is more of analytical thinking and or reading new data or watching the news. It's all about new information, whereas the right brain deals a lot with spatial organization, more of love, compassion,
Yeah.
art,
Creativity.
music.
Yeah. Hmm.
And the reason why I'm talking about this is because in yoga, we know that the way you breathe has a lot to do with which hemisphere you're using. For example, when you use the left nostril, then the air passes through the sinuses and it actually activates the right hemisphere of the brain much more. And when you breathe through the left nostril, the opposite, and the right nostril goes to the left hemisphere. Um, and so the way you use your brain as a counterproductive event actually controls the way you breathe, and therefore trying to balance the amount of time that you spend between analytical thinking as against art, music, etc., spatial organization helps a lot with the way you breathe, and this gives you control of your breath. And that's where have you heard about pranayam breathing by any chance?
No, I haven't actually.
So it's actually, and there are 6 types of pranayam breathing, and one of the simplest types you may have seen pictures is using one nostril at a time to breathe in and breathe out. So you basically breathe in through the left nostril and then hold for 4 seconds and then breathe out through the other nostril. And this practice is one simple step where it gives a patient the time to actually just ground themselves. And because we try to catch up from one task to another, and such simple one moment relaxation techniques goes a long way for our patients. And when you tell to these patients, they're like, wow, that's so simple but so profound. So those are certain things that that I've been working on with my patients. These are all beyond what we usually find time for in our regular clinics, and that's where I try to find at least an extra 30 seconds to give in 1 or 2 things for them to follow through during their next follow-up visits. So those are certain things that I'll be happy to contribute. A lot of the content on my YouTube page, if time permits, I'll pass on some important links so that you can go through some of the content. I share publications on comparing yoga versus pulmonary rehab. I share content on acupuncture, for instance, that is becoming more famous in the veterans population, because the VA population is for some reason, because they're probably used to Vietnam or they're exposed to those cultures, and they bring in a lot of Eastern techniques, including transcendental meditation, which is popularized by David Lynch, Beatles,
Yeah.
TM, and then
Yep.
the veteran population is one that has propagated the use of acupuncture also. So these are things that help to ground our COPD patients, because many a times the veteran population does have COPD as well as PTSD. So
Oh yeah.
they try to maximize the benefit from what they use for PTSD ends up also helping their COPD.
Yeah. Well, there's that connection. I mean, there's a, sometimes right when someone's getting anxious or upset, what do you tell them? Just, all right, take a breath.
Mm-hmm.
There's that connection between the breath and then the energy within the body, you
Absolutely.
know. So yeah, very, very, very important stuff. And it's really, I think, very important, I guess, for Western culture to learn and understand this much more, because it's not as predominant as it should be, and it could be tremendously helpful.
I,
It could be tremendously helpful.
I appreciate that.
So yeah, I would excited. I'd love to figure out what a great, a good date for you would be.
Okay.
Because we would love for you to present through our pulmonary chat patient support group.
Okay. Okay.
And I want to make sure that we have enough time to adequately promote it to reach as many people as possible. I mean, we've had some, on average, we'll have, anywhere between 50 and 70 people join, but we've had meetings with well over 100, 150, 160 patients on the call.
Awesome.
So I
Yeah,
would love,
what I'll do is I'll make sure that I prepare the content, and I'll actually pass it on to you, so that you run through the entire content before I actually present the same thing live during that time. So that so you can edit accordingly based on, because you know your population better than I, so we can accordingly adjust what content to present, because there's so much to present, but we have
Yeah.
to make sure that we have a very fun presentation, at the same time very gripping and useful presentation.
So I wonder, and it's funny, you mentioned singing before. We actually, one of our meetings, we did singing for COPD, and we did live karaoke where everybody sang and
Nice.
sang along with, some favorite classic, sing along songs. And we had a great time, and we're about to do it again. I think next week is the next one for that.
Oh,
But I wonder if we couldn't maybe even split it up into a couple of meetings.
yeah.
Oh, sorry, I didn't shut the volume off, and
No,
text messages are coming in. We just shut the volume off there.
no problem.
So I wonder if it wouldn't, I wouldn't, I'd be happy to set up maybe a couple of meetings if you wanted to. Typically, so we usually have our education portion approximately 45 minutes or so, 30 to 45 minutes, 45. We've had some that goes a little longer, up to about an hour. Typically, the meetings are an hour and a half, and we want to make sure there's time for questions and answers, because there's always questions, which is great, which means there's learning and engagement.
Okay.
So, and typically in the beginning of the meeting, we start with a few minutes of just open networking and conversation as people are signing in, so given that time frame, I'd be happy to have you come in a couple of times if you wanted to separate it into a couple of different topics,
Yeah.
and then focus on each one individually, because then the folks they'll learn more, absorb more,
Yeah.
and then we don't have to rush through anything,
Correct.
and
Correct.
because
And I can always share content of my YouTube, and they can take their own time uh,
right.
to spend time on that. That's a great idea. I will work on sharing specific links with you, and whenever time permits, you can run through some of them at your own leisure, and then you can pinpoint to me, I really like this. Let's maximize on this one, etc.
Yeah, no, that would be great. And if know how long each topic, how much time you would like to spend on each topic, if you kind of keep that 45 minutes as a loose guideline,
Okay.
and then you could decide. I mean, if you want to do it in one meeting, and you could break it up into 3 15-minute sections, if you felt like that's what you wanted to do, I'm happy with that as well. But I will leave that to your expertise. If you want to spend more time on a particular topic, then by all means, we could dedicate a specific meeting directly to that.
Sure.
So, I mean, we do 3 meetings a month.
Mhm.
And I have to check with Michelle De Silva. She's a respiratory therapist, also a lifelong asthmatic, so patient and clinician. She's our director of education.
Okay.
So she's the one that she manages the schedule for speakers. But I know we have a bunch of openings right now.
Okay.
So when you're doing 36 meetings a year, we tend to go through a lot of speakers, right? So
Yeah.
so I think I'm pretty sure there's still an opening later this month.
Okay.
And then I think there's one opening in July,
Mhm.
and then I think August is wide open.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, if
How about aim for July?
okay, sure.
Yeah. In the meantime, I will, we'll have time to go back and forth at least a couple of times
Mhm.
with the content. And yeah, easily I can, I think, aim for at least 35 minutes of me talking, and then 10 minutes all through the content back and forth with questions.
Yeah, I mean, we typically with that 45 minutes will allow for an additional 20 to 30 minutes of questions after that.
Okay. Sounds
So we figure, if you figure 45 minutes of presentation time, 5 or 10 minutes in the beginning of the meeting. Say we start at 4:30, presentation starts at say 4:40. You put 45 minutes on that, and you're almost 5:30. We have all the way up until 6 o'clock for questions and answers and conversation. So
What day of the week is this usually?
Tuesday.
Tuesday. Okay.
Tuesday, yeah. Usually 4:30 p.m. Eastern time on Tuesday.
And in July, do you know which date it is?
Um, I believe. Let me pull my calendar up here. It would. I got to double check. I think it would either be the 19th or the 26th.
Okay, yeah, that works.
I think we do have another dietitian. One of those, we have a dietitian scheduled to speak, and I don't remember which one it is. Like I said, I'll check with Michelle and I'll get back to you right away.
Sounds good. Yeah, if July is already booked, that's totally fine.
Yeah. Oh, we out of the 3 meetings in July, we meet the second, third, and fourth Tuesday. So out of the 3 meetings in July, I believe we have 2 of them booked, and there is one open. I just don't remember whether the open one is the 19th or the 26th.
Sounds good.
So yeah, I'll have to, like I said, Michelle, I'll send her a message and she'll get right back to me typically. So
absolutely. What else?
That'd be great. And actually, as we move forward, depending on, I'm sure you have a very full schedule. There's another project or 2 that we're working on that, as we're talking, I think you might be a great fit for. So maybe what we'll do is let's concentrate on pulmonary chat first, but there's a couple, like I said, there's a couple different things that we're working on as far as patient education and ensuring healthy living for those with COPD that I think you'd be a perfect fit for. So maybe what we'll do, if it's all right with you, actually what I'll do is maybe an email introduction to a couple of the other team members that we're working on this project, that are a part of this project, and we could talk about it, and you could get an overview and see if it's something you'd like to be a part of. I think you'd be a great fit. So and it's not the kind of thing that we're going to need a lot of time.
Okay.
Right. So
definitely, my pleasure.
Now that would be awesome. It just I can tell you're passionate about making a difference in the patient community, and really what you're talking about here is something that I've been looking to add. So the timing is perfect. Awesome. It really is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's I love when kind of the universe brings together things that are needed at just the right time. So
yes, because as physicians, we are trying to somehow find the doorway, because after we run through Advair or Spiriva and Daliresp and oxygen and pulmonary rehab, that's where we're like, okay, what do we do now? Yeah. That's where these things open up. But then what we are trying to do is do all of these things right from the get-go alongside.
Correct. Yeah. It's I am certainly in favor of using medication to help people, live and live their best life. I am very much in favor of incorporating everything that we're talking about here first. Correct. To minimize, right? Because if you think about it, and it's the frustrating thing for me is the single most effective tool for helping people live their best lives with lung disease is pulmonary rehab, and it's the least utilized. Yeah. And that has to change. Yeah. That has to change. And everything that we're talking about here goes directly in line with everything that Right2Breathe is trying to promote. Which is, responsible use of medications. Mm-hmm. But if there is the education ahead of time, you can minimize that as well as the side effects that go along with them.
Correct. Yeah. Patients, even leave alone patients, general public, even say our own family, you tend to watch either your parents or your uncles or different people have their own certain lifestyles or certain daily routines that may not be ideal, and you wish you could enforce certain things that you want them to be doing. For example, not trying to spend too much time on the cell phone. Instead, why don't you take a break every 20 minutes, after, say, for example, if you watch the news or something for 20 minutes, try to see if you can spend at least 5 minutes resting your mind and moving your body instead, because we are so good at doing the opposite, which is using the brain too much and resting the body, and so there has to be a balance in that. So so that's where we try to share the information with patients and trying to motivate them in a very in a kind manner, so that they don't feel like, oh, the doctor is trying to make me do so many different things, but need the right kind of constant nudge all through their daily lives. And probably once you do this for a month, then the kind of schedule sets in their life, and they'll go from there.
Yep, it becomes routine and habit, and then the changes happen for the long term, which
Yeah,
then nets enormous results.
yeah. And, most of my patients who've gone to pulmonary rehab, they're like, damn, why did I not do this so many years back?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, at some point, I have to reach out to him as well. I don't know if do you know he's in South Florida, Dr. Keith Robinson.
No.
Oh, he's fantastic as well. Keith is very much involved with. He's a pulmonologist that has been involved with um, pulmonary rehab as well as other Eastern modalities as well. And I think yeah, I mean,
Wonderful.
I think there's a growing understanding and movement towards a holistic approach as opposed to strictly pharmacological approach, and if I can help that grow, I would like to make sure I do
And
that.
even the online pulmonary rehab modules that during COVID that got created by AACVPR,
Mhm.
the association, that's a big gift for patients. But however, they're not aware of that. Only very few people who are into that particular, I think they have to know the website and they have to get some kind of a forward from somebody. But the modules, the online modules, it's basically a bunch of YouTube videos one after the other showing simple pulmonary rehab techniques. So that was also a great boost. But yeah, we'll try to make this pulmonary rehab kind of things more fun, and that's what I'm hoping to try to do here.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a blessing and a privilege that I got introduced to you.
Oh, likewise. Absolutely. No, I think um, Carolyn's wonderful. Absolutely love her. She's a big part of our meetings, and really, actually, we've had her as a speaker before as well, which is great to share her story. We really have a combination of various clinicians and disciplines between we have had someone talk about yoga before,
Okay.
functional movement specialists do some simple exercises, and we've talked about nutrition. We've had various physicians come speak. We actually had Dr. Roberto Benzo from I think he's from the Mayo Clinic talk about mindfulness,
Okay. Wonderful.
which is great. So again, I think this here is the next logical step in growing that knowledge base for the group. So
Good. Well, so I'll stay in touch with you over email, and I'll also note down your text through email, and then I will pass on some links and I'll pass on some agenda of content, and then we'll go back and forth regarding the exact date, and then yes, I think we'll take it from there.
that sounds great. Really excited. Thank you so much for spending some time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe.
Awesome. Well,